Jan-Jan, thanks as always for joining us. A lot has happened in the Democratic Alliance since back in May 2018. It seems like just the other day when Mmusi Maimane stood unopposed for his second term at the for the Democratic Alliance. Am I being overtly dramatic by saying this is a very different DA right now, and that this Congress is very much a battle for the heart and soul and a different direction for the party?
Good morning. Yes, I think you're not being overtly dramatic, at least not more so than any other time. So as far as the DA goes, yes, it has changed and the environment has changed. In 2018, the DA was in a working relationship with the EFF in many municipalities. It's now down to two, Tabazimbi and Morimole, both in Limpopo, where they co-govern, although they're not in coalition. And the party has seen some setbacks as far as its electoral support goes, and I think as far as its general direction goes, in the sense that the new leadership, there's much focus on who it's going to be. The question actually should be what it's going to be. I think the results are quite expected. I think that Steenhuisen will win and Zille will win, Steenhuisen by a larger margin. But the question is, what will they do with it?
And it's also going to ask the question about the factions, isn't it? Because when it comes to talking about the US elections, it's very easy. It's a Republican versus a Democrat. They've got very clear ideologies into what they want to achieve. When it comes to two people fighting within the same political party that seem to have very different views of which way the DA should go, what is that going to do for the party's unity after today's result?
I think what you can absolutely say is that much as one doesn't want to say that the Zille-Steenhuisen grouping is moving the DA to the right, one doesn't want to say that because then they will become very unhappy and even angrier. So I would say that it's not taking the DA to the left. That is clear. So the DA needs to decide what it wants to be. For many years, its success has been that it has shown itself to be a sort of alternative government to the ANC. Now it seems that under Zille to a large degree, and Steenhuisen less so because he doesn't speak so openly about what he wants, the party has moved into some sort of ideological direction where everybody tries to be a better classical liberal than the next person. And the question is going to be, is there going to be this insular focus on what exactly it wants to be in an ideological way, or is it going to be the political party that wants to unseat the ANC and realizes that it must work with other opposition parties to do so? That's going to be the question for this weekend's Congress of the DA.
If we track what has happened in the Democratic Alliance following our last elections, which now seems like a lifetime ago, is it fair to say that we started seeing the changes when it looked like the Democratic Alliance had lost a certain amount of their voters to a party like the Freedom Front Plus, and there was almost like a knee-jerk reaction as to, but with a smaller party like the Democratic Alliance, you cannot even afford to lose those kinds of voters. Was it a knee-jerk reaction, or do you see there being a strategic decision to try and woo back those voters that they seem to have lost along the way?
Marcel, I think it's both. They did lose those voters to the Freedom Front Plus, but then they started asking the wrong questions. And I think that's where the strategic drift is so clear. Firstly, they started asking, why did these people vote for the Freedom Front Plus and not for the DA in the 2019 election? There were about 250,000 of them. And they focused it on a small town in northwest called Schweizer-Reineke, which is in the news for all the wrong reasons because people tend to take all the wrong pictures in Schweizer-Reineke. So the point there was that they completely lost focus of two real questions. The first is that the question was never why did people vote against the DA in 2019. The question they should have asked, and they still are not asking it, is why did those people vote for the DA in the first place? Secondly, the question is also what are they losing in trying to woo back these conservative voters? I think they may realize, but probably too late, that in trying to win back what they have lost, they might lose what they have. Just to put, not to put too fine a point to it, there's a lot of focus in the DA and in the national discussion on white voters in Schweizereineke. There are more white voters in the street block in Sea Point where I live than in the whole of that municipality. But they tend to completely focus on the few voters that they've lost, completely forgetting that they can gain so much more to the other side, and that they have voters currently who might be woke, who might be somewhat to the left, and who honestly don't know when this contest to be more Freedom Front than the Freedom Front started.
Jan-Jan Joubert, thank you very much. It's going to be a fascinating 2 days. I'm sure we're going to speak to Jan-Jan again, and also some of the other top political commentators and analysts.